This week on Crunch Week, we're talking about the return of Andrew Mason, eBay's diversity report, and Twitter's big quarter. Hello and welcome to Crunch Week. My name is Alex.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Kat.
And this is an important day because it is Kat's very first and probably last Crunch Week as one of our summer interns. So Kat, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much.
Are you excited?
I'm very excited.
Are you scared?
Yes.
That's unreasonable. This is Crunch Week. It's very relaxed. But this has been a very interesting week for technology. It's been kind of a quiet towards the end, but big towards the beginning. And one of the best stories out was that Groupon's former CEO,
ousted
former fired CEO, is back with, of course, an app.
Yeah.
So what's going on?
Andrew Mason this week, after a year and a half of working behind the scenes or laying low, released his new app. It's called Detour.
Detour.
And it's basically like an audio tour app.
So do I wear headphones when I walk around?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the idea is that you open up the app, you pick one of the tours, you go to a location, like a starting point, put in your headphones, and then you just walk around and have like the person guide you around and then tell you stories and stuff like that.
So it's like when you're in the museum looking at the old painting and it's like, in 1412, that sort of thing, but for the real world.
It's like that, but it's not boring. I guess it's more like
that's subjective.
It's more like listening to an episode of NPR, right? So you would be walking around Fisherman's Wharf, and then you get to a certain point, and then like a fisherman jumps in and starts telling you his stories and like what it's like to be out on the water and how he got started and that type of thing. And so it's more like Andrew Mason calls it location-based documentary than it is, walking
It's a bit
tour.
buzzwordy, but Kat, you're new here. You're not from here. You don't live here. Well, you won't in a few weeks. Would you use this to get around the city and try to learn more about your temporary residence?
To be honest, probably not. I mean, I have used similar things when I've been at museums and things like that, but I'm not sure if just touring around the city, walking around, if that's something that, I would think to download.
So then how big of a market is there for this app? Because he said this was the app that was missing from the App Store that he really wanted, so he went out and he built it, right?
Well, he went out and built it. I mean, so the idea behind it came from when he was touring the Roman ruins with his wife, and he had like an audio tour that he downloaded to his iPod back in like 2006.
I see.
And so they were sharing like one set of earbuds and like, walking along, and they kept coming out or whatever.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. So he wanted to build something that was, number one, you could sync between multiple people, and it uses Bluetooth and some like internet connectivity to make sure that all of the members of the party are hooked up. Okay. Number two is location aware. So you can sort of jump off the tour or pause it, walk around, and then come back to it. And it'll pick up sort of where you left off.
Have you used the app?
Yeah. So I used it on a tour with Andrew Mason, and also I did another tour through the Tenderloin section of San Francisco, and that was an interesting tour because it took you to like a lot of places that you definitely wouldn't normally go.
Right.
And it was narrated by one of the founders of the EFF.
And this is a iOS application.
It's an iOS application to start. It's in private beta right now. There's like a sign-up list. You have to.
So you can't just go and download it.
You can't just go and download it. Right.
Does it make money at all?
They plan to sell the tours.
Okay.
So walking tours are typically about $20 to $50 if you were going to sign up and like buy a Groupon. But
that was a beautiful little caveat there.
But the walking tours, they're going to sell them for less than $10 each.
That's reasonable. If I was in, let's say, Rome and I had a spare afternoon and I didn't know where to go around, I didn't speak Italian, I can see myself using this.
Well, I mean, it's not being pitched specifically for tourists. Like, it's being pitched, for tourists or even residents who want to find out more about, different sections of their city that they wouldn't normally go to.
I want to point out we got through the entire section without making a single Andrew Mason rock album joke. I'm very proud of us. That's highbrow. Crunch Week is high fucking brow, man.
I love Hardly Workin', which is
if you don't understand, Andrew Mason put together a rock album and it's incredibly bad, and it is the low point of his career.
It's so bad
Absolutely
it's good.
Low point. It's not.
So bad it's good.
Speaking of things that are so bad they're good, we have eBay's diversity report, which was out this week.
Yeah, so eBay released its diversity report. It seems to be better than the reports we've been seeing.
Define better.
So we're looking at, with eBay, a lot more women are being hired there, it seems, than some of the other tech companies we're looking at. We have their report, it's 42% female overall, and in tech positions specifically, it's at 24% female.
And what was Twitter?
Twitter was 30% female and 10% in
So
tech
more than
positions.
2x percentage-wise at eBay in their tech divisions.
Yes.
Why is that? What drives that?
Well, I think one of the things might be that eBay has been really proactive about having programming to encourage women at their company. They have a program called WIN that they started 3 years ago. And since launching that program, they've doubled the number of women in leadership positions there. So I think seeing that, something that maybe is helping their numbers improve.
Do you think that program can be replicated by other tech companies like, say, Yahoo, Twitter, Microsoft, Google, Facebook?
I do. I think it's a really promising sign for these tech companies that have also indicated that they're going to be starting similar programs. The fact that this has been going on for 3 years at eBay and they already seem to have better numbers than some of the other companies out there, I think.
Do we know how much it changed in that 1 3-year window? Like, do we have a before and after percentage?
The only percentage that we have before and after is that it doubled in leadership positions. We don't have specific data
for the tech division, for example?
For the tech division or overall numbers.
So if we applied a similar program to, let's say, company X, do you think they could see similar results, or is eBay unique in its ability to kind of quickly change its ratios?
I think that there's a possibility that you could see similar results. I think it's very important to have women in leadership positions when you're trying to recruit women at,
Right.
in tech positions or in just general positions in the company. So I think that having programs that really foster women who are already at the company moving up through the ranks,
Right.
like this program does, I think that's important.
Ryan, you talk to so many people in companies that are small and growing. Your beat is really focused on startups. I mean, do you see similar efforts in younger, less mature companies to do similar things?
I mean, to be honest, in the smaller companies, I don't see that much. I mean, it depends on the company, obviously.
Okay.
But I think, when you're talking about companies that are, 5, 10, 15 people, they're just trying to grab like the best talent they can.
Right.
And then, worry about the diversity thing, like as they scale up.
So at what scale do you start caring about this? I mean, is it 20 employees? Is it 100? What's a good starting point? Because when you're 5 employees, you're just trying to not die, right?
Right. I mean, I think once you reach probably around 20 employees, like you should probably start to think about like what the ratio is, and make sure that at least your company's values represent a place where women or people of color would actually like to work.
This fits into the larger, more HR at younger companies meme we've seen, especially in the wake of the GitHub scandal, really.
Right.
I mean, so is more HR kind of component to this push, or are they separate?
It is part of it.
Okay.
I think when Y Combinator released their numbers last week, they talked a little bit about making sure that companies are setting up HR departments early as startups. A lot of companies, according to their report, wait until they have more than 50 employees, which can make
Right.
it difficult for female employees to work in that environment at times. So I think that's an important step to start thinking about that early. And just from talking to people, it seems that one of the things that really helps is having women on board in the company early. So keeping that in mind for startups, I think, is a really important step in this initiative.
Are we going to do a diversity report for TechCrunch? Do we know? We've talked about it.
I think we are talking about it. I'm working on getting those numbers right now, so hopefully.
Do you have any guess about what our ratio is on, like, say, among the editorial staff?
Just looking around the editorial staff, I would think in editorial that our numbers are pretty equal or close to equal.
Okay.
I think that looking at Crunchbase or some of the developer positions, that's where we'll maybe see more of a...
Well, if we do reports, we do separate reports then, so we look better, I think. Look, play for the home team. And actually, rounding out this week was a big report from Twitter. Their earnings came in and just skyrocketed. I mean, they beat on revenue, profit, user growth, guidance. I mean, it was incredible, and their stock was up, I think, 21% the next morning. And so I feel like as we talk about kind of the changes, I think some companies are still doing very well. Ryan, when you saw the Twitter numbers, were you surprised by how well they did?
I was surprised by the market reaction.
Really?
And it made me wonder like how much of it was just analysts in Wall Street had totally lost faith in the company going into the quarter, or was Twitter somehow sandbagging? Like, were their own forecasts kind of lower than expected? That's kind of a question that you always wonder about,
Right.
or I always wonder about going into earnings.
Sure, but I think their first 2 quarters as a public company, they beat financial expectations both times and got wrecked because they were concerns about their user growth. But in this case, they, I think, assuaged some of those worries, and then that's, I think, the reason why investors responded so positively to their results.
I mean, what was the actual difference in the user growth? Because it looked to me
It was
like
plus 16 million monthly actives on a sequential quarter basis.
Okay.
And they're up 24% year over year.
Okay.
And I think that was a low threshold to meet, but I think investors were just so pessimistic that they were like, it's just going to be terrible. And I think the average expectation was 14 million, so they beat that. And I think that just was people like, okay, maybe this is not a problem. Maybe this is going to be okay. And they just skyrocketed.
Do you think that this is going to be the type of situation like what we saw on Facebook, where Facebook, after it IPO'd, had a few really tough quarters,
Right.
and then turned it around probably third or fourth quarter it started to report, and ever since it's been doing really, really well?
Yeah, so we looked, during Facebook's earnings, we looked backwards in time over every single quarter they reported, and except for their very first quarter, they beat expectations every single time.
Yeah.
I mean, Facebook has just been incredibly consistent. That was more of a worry about mobile ad revenue. Twitter already does very well there. I think Twitter's big question is, is 16 million per quarter enough? The answer is absolutely not. And so if they don't accelerate that number, I think they'll have more trouble. But I mean, they're still down $25 a share from their all-time high. I mean, they're still at a serious discount to where they used to be. So I think it's kind of priced in to the offering. And Kat, for the last question of the day, where is Twitter's stock price in 12 months? Up or down? Up or down?
I think up. What about you?
We'll leave it with that. That's all the time we have. Thank you guys for tuning in.